So far in this series on hospitality, we've only talked about what it is and why we as Christians should do it. But we haven't talked about how to do it. It's not enough to believe it's important and God commands it. We have to actually put it into practice. So I want to make this video on how to do Christian hospitality as simple and practical as possible. I'm going to give you some easy steps to begin working this into your life so it can become natural for you to start bringing people into your life. So no fluff or filler here, we're getting right into it. I'm going to break this down into some categories to kind of ease you into this because as I said before in the first two videos, this does make us feel vulnerable. If you're not in the habit of doing this already, it can be a serious adjustment. It can feel a little overwhelming. And if you're more introverted naturally, that sort of just compounds all of that. I get that. But how do we get over that? Yeah, that's the question. We don't excuse our lack of obedience in other areas because of a lack of giftedness or because of personality. So we can't really do that here either. The question is, how can I launch into this softly? You know, if I'm completely weirded out by it, how, if the idea of it freaks me out, how can I take some easy baby steps into this? So we'll start there. Before we talk about inviting strangers off the street into your home, we'll talk about the low-hanging fruit first, okay? All right, so the first tier, a sort of practice round and really low-stakes version, is to just ask someone from your church to come over for dinner at your house or for lunch after church on Sunday. Super simple. You know, this can be somebody you already have some rapport with, someone it's easy for you to talk to already. Just to break the ice and create the sort of the muscle memory of actually extending an invitation, putting it on the calendar, and just doing it, making the preparations and doing it, just to sort of build up, like I said, that muscle memory, just as we train ourselves to do anything else until it becomes familiar. And then I'd suggest doing that same thing again the next week or later that month. You know, you don't want to leave too big a gap of time if we're trying to make a habit of this. And this time, invite someone that's a part of King's Church still, just that you don't know very well yet, right? Somebody that's not as familiar, somebody you really haven't gotten a chance to talk to and to get to know. This is the place where that happens. You know, this is how a church actually knows each other. We have community groups, and that is absolutely wonderful. It's been a tremendous blessing to everyone who's been a part of that. But we have community groups, y'all, so this becomes easier, right? People desiring a relationship with one another and these organic kinds of fellowship blossoming out of that. So that's the next step. Step one, start with somebody you already know, somebody that you feel close to. And then step two, invite someone from church you realize you actually don't know very well. Hang there for a little bit until you've made your rounds around the church and gotten to know the people in your church. And something to point out, you'll be a tremendous blessing. If you do this, you'll be a tremendous blessing to those people who are naturally more loners, right? Who might be more introverted themselves. So you inviting them, right? Getting to know them and modeling how to do all that for them is part of how we all grow. I'll pause here for a story Alexander Strock shares in his book that I've mentioned in every one of these videos so far, The Hospitality Commands. A lot of what I'm sharing in this practical section, you can find there too, by the way. It's a very helpful resource. But he shares the story about a couple that was part of a church that was thinking of leaving because they didn't feel connected. Well, instead of doing that, which so many people often do, instead, they took this command seriously in Scripture and decided to invite every person in the church to their home for dinner over the course of 1 year. By the end of the year, they knew everyone in the church and made several close, lifelong lasting friendships. So just within our church, practicing hospitality goes a long way to strengthening our body and making us healthy. And by practicing with one another, we become more like the family that we say we are and that we want to be. And it becomes easier for people outside to be welcomed into it. So that's the next step. Invite visitors. We still even haven't left the church yet, okay? So we're just stepping into it a little bit at a time, and we haven't even left the church, y'all, you know? This is easy stuff. These people just kind of fall into your lap already. So after church on Sunday, if you see a visitor, invite them over for lunch. I would even suggest praying about this, and those of you with families, pray as a family together leading up to that Sunday, that God would bring someone to church you can have over for lunch, and just plan on it, right? Plan on the possibility of having a few or a handful of extra people at your table Sunday afternoon. And don't stress about it. Do not stress about it. trust God will bless that. That if you do it, He'll fill in the gaps for you, okay? He will. All right, now leveling up a little more, and then we'll get into some other real practical things I'm sure you've got questions about. So the next step is inviting those who are outside the church, right? These can be people who live in your neighborhood, people you work with. They don't have to be complete strangers, okay? And then here's the thing, make a list. If this is going to move beyond good intentions to implementation, right, you have to make a list. If you're married, make a list with your spouse, right? Think about a list of names of people you might like to have over in the next few months. Pick some possible dates on the calendar. You know, you could make work that you'll be in town and don't have, prior obligations, and then just start inviting. If you don't do this, you'll get too busy. You'll be too busy next week, and then the week after that, and then the week after that. And so it never happens. So make a list of names, circle some dates on your calendar, and just start filling those slots. So now you've got some categories of people to invite and how you can kind of ramp up into this. And now all that's left really is just doing it routinely. Put it on the calendar. If you have the space and the means, begin inviting more people. That would sort of be the next logical step. If you have the space in your home, you have the means to be able to provide larger meals or whatever, have larger groups. This way, your guests aren't just mixing with you, they're mixing with your other guests there. Again, fostering this sort of community. And then comes the scruffy hospitality piece. Years ago, Amanda and I were convicted we needed to practice this, that we needed to practice hospitality more. Not just more, we weren't doing it at all. And we needed to just start doing it. And she found a really good article called Scruffy Hospitality. And in that article, just in her reading it, I remember we were driving in the car going somewhere. I think we were driving to see her parents that still lived in Georgia at the time. And as she's reading the article, she's like, I can do this. Like at every turn, she's like, I can do this. Oh, this is what it is. And it's really refreshing for us. It helped us sort of let our hair down, if you will, and just begin doing it and not making it this big production and not making it this huge obligation. Hey, we're going to be sitting down at our table eating dinner anyway. Might as well invite a few other people and not worry so much about the house or anything else. Not worrying about trying to put on some fancy dinner party, but just having some people sit around and eat a meal with us that we were going to have whether they were there or not. The point is don't be afraid of letting people see your home. They have a home too, and it's probably not spick and span, perfect, shining all of the time. It's not white glove test ready. So don't worry about people seeing your home. They've got one too. Compile a list of simple and inexpensive recipes for meals, right? That's another thing. And then just sort of put them in a rotation. Things that you can whip up kind of quick that don't take you a whole lot of time. And you can have some if you want to play around a little bit that are a little bit more elaborate, but it's not necessary. It's not about the food, it's about the fellowship. Remember that hospitality is a service to others. It's not a talent show to impress anyone. So remembering that, those scruffy hospitality principles, not only does that alleviate some of the pressure off of you, it shows people that they can do it too. It shows people they don't have to have a full set of matching plates or know how to even set a table properly. Some people are drinking out of glasses, and when you run out of glasses, you have solo cups or whatever. That sort of scruffy hospitality is exactly what we need in the church, because that's what family looks like. Right? It's not formal, it's informal, it's casual, it's fun, it's warm, and it's inviting. That's the kind of environment where friendships develop naturally and open conversations happen. That's the kind of hospitality we want to be a part of at King's Church. And so I hope the series has been informative, maybe even convicting, right? And overall, very encouraging for you. So now the question is, what will you do with it? Go ahead, start making a list of names, circle dates on the calendar, start filling those spots, start praying today about who the Lord will bring to church this Sunday that you can invite over for lunch. If you're not there yet, right, and you need to ease into that a little bit, invite a friend from church, somebody that you already know, invite them over for lunch after church on Sunday. Spend some time together. Then start looking for those people in the church that you don't know as well and just begin working out from there. Wherever you begin, just begin. And know that your Father in heaven sees you and smiles on your efforts, no matter how small or imperfect you think they are. If He can make everything out of nothing, He can make a lot out of what you offer Him by faith. Hey, if you're not already connected to King's Church somehow, but you've enjoyed this series that we put together on hospitality, I want to thank you for joining us. You know, we've never lived in a time quite like this where it's been as easy to share this kind of information. And so we hope that you've benefited from it, that the Lord blesses you by it, and thanks for joining us. And I would invite you to join us for worship on Sunday. We meet at Ben Lippen School off of St. Andrews Road, 10 a.m. on Sundays. So if you're local to Columbia, we'd love to have you with us. We'll see you next time.